How long until we reach Nova Atar, Ensign?
About 23 hours, Captain.
22 hours, 53 minutes, and 17 seconds to be precise.
Spock, there's no need to be precise. We're going on shore leave. Rest, relaxation, no calls from Starfleet.
Captain, we have a message coming in from Admiral Richards at Starfleet.
On screen, Lieutenant.
Hello, Jim. I know you're going on shore leave, but
What is it, Chris?
since you're going there anyway, and it's only a small favor,
Favor?
I don't want to inconvenience you, but
Fine, you have it. What would you like me to do?
we recently discovered that one of the exhibits in the Smithsonian Annex at Nova Atar is of great historical significance to the Serenzi, an influential family from planet Lakian. The museum is going to have a small ceremony to return the item. The Federation planned to send a representative, but, well, she couldn't make it. Since you'll be in the neighborhood, well, no dress uniforms. All you have to do is smile and shake hands.
Smile, shake hands. It would be my pleasure, Admiral. My chief engineer had already promised to show me around. We'll be there.
Thanks, Jim. I owe you one. Check your data files for details. Oh, one more thing, Jim. Due to the security concerns, you won't be allowed to bring any electronic equipment with you. Richard's out.
Now, I was saying...
Captain, do we really have to stand around and listen to speeches from a bunch of politicians?
It won't be all bad, Scotty. The curator's a major cognac producer, and he asked us to show up early to thank us for our support.
Captain, it'd be rude to keep a man like the curator waiting, what with an important diplomatic function to prepare for.
We've arrived at Nova Atar, Captain.
Bring us into standard orbit, Mr. Sewell.
Aye, Captain.
We are at Nova Atar.
Curator Brezhnev bids you to beam down at your pleasure.
Mr. Scott, Mr. Chekhov, come with me. Mr. Spock, you have the comm.
Captain Kirk, good to meet you. I am Boris Brezhnev, curator of the museum. Everyone is buzzing about visitors from the Enterprise. A real feather in my cap.
The pleasure is ours, sir. This is my chief engineer, Mr. Scott, and Ensign Chekhov, our navigator.
Most pleased to meet you both. Chekhov, a fine name. I'm certain you will be interested in sampling the Kazakhstani cognac, distilled and blended by my family. In fact, I will later show you my most prized possession, a bottle of our finest vintage, aged 14 years from our very first pressing.
But isn't cognac French?
Originally, Mr. Scott. But before my ancestors came to settle this planet, they went to Cognac and purchased cuttings, brought them here, and made enhancements. You could say we reinvented Cognac. I do not wish to be rude, but you gentlemen are a bit early, and I must see to making certain the cleaning crews are finished working. Please, feel free to look about a bit. I will page you later, and maybe you will join me in a small toast before the ceremonies? Yes?
It would be our pleasure, curator.
I told you we invented it.
Maybe we were a little hard on you, laddie.
Never doubted you for a second, Mr. Chekhov. Now let's take advantage of this time and look around.
The Klingon console looks operational, but without a ship attached, it's hard to tell. Written on the plaque, this is a control console from a Klingon warbird, the Klarg, which was salvaged from the battle wreckage near Crimmins 8.
Think you could make that work, Mr. Scott?
Of course, Captain. But it's not like I'll ever have to.
Chekhov is pleased to finally be with someone from his ancestral culture.
Maybe they'll display a piece of the Enterprise here someday, Captain.
Maybe they will, Mr. Chekhov.
They'd better not. Taking a piece out of that grand lady would be like cutting the head from the statue of the Antares Maiden and putting that on display.
Interesting analogy, Mr. Scott. But you have to admit that someday, even the Enterprise will be put into dry dock.
He will not.
I think we'll agree with Mr. Scott on this one, don't you think, Mr. Chekhov?
Yes, Captain.
You know, this is a fine place, Captain. We'll have to come here for shore leave more often.
The plaque reads, an old ground-based phaser cannon model B-17, the real equalizer, rescued from a Federation scrapyard, probably based on the frontier near Nelapur. This phaser cannon no longer possesses any of its focusing or targeting equipment. The large capacitors in the base allowed a variety of power sources to be used to energize the cannon and gave the real equalizer considerable flexibility in use. The plaque reads, an old ground-based... Lights cascade continually above the surface of this device. Plaques on each side read, the Vandecourt Aurora generator was donated to this museum by Sir William Loudon. Originally, a university experiment designed to test broadcast power as both a containment system and photostimulation for possible use in a propulsion system, the unit was presented as a gift to Loudon, who liked the way it looked and had recently donated a significant sum to the university. Lights cascade continue. The plaque reads, the Niven, non-integrated Vulcan electronumerator, was one of the earliest versions of a Vulcan computer. Some of the components were found to only function correctly at high temperatures. Since the focus in those early days was on computational effectiveness and not user-friendliness, the operator could not stand near the Niven during its operation. Input to the machine was cabled in from a separate device. Hence, it was a non-integrated computer.
Not that I'm ever planning to leave the Enterprise, but a man could do worse than spend his retirement here. A lot worse.
I don't know, Scotty. I don't think I can really imagine you wanting to spend your days tinkering with antiques.
Perhaps you're right, but these things do have their charm.
I hope the ceremony doesn't last too long. I'm starting to get hungry.
I'm sure it won't be much longer, Mr. Chekhov.
The plaque on the old machine reads, an early experimental transporter. The Murnane 8 was from a time before transporters were safe for travel by living beings. Constructed to be a frequently modified testbed, the Murnane 8 had only a small loading bay. The destination controls were also still in testing, making the use of this transporter as much art as science. Hulking consoles ring the room, making the raised pedestal stand out even more. The plaque reads, one of the most widely used and most stable designs ever. The Umber Hubble Mark 84 has been used in far more ships than any other model.
Captain Kirk, I trained on one of these. It's solid as a rock and twice as dependable.
Remind me after the ceremony. I'll talk to the curator about letting you look this one over.
Thank you, Captain. I'd dearly love to put it through its paces.
An old communications panel. On the plaque, this communications station was removed off the old freighter, Big Bear Running, when that ship was retired from its customary Benchley to Sawcare run. Outdated by today's standards, this system was known for its powerful transmitter and ease of repair. As a side note, the shell of the Big Bear Running was used as a testing target for present models of photon torpedoes. This EVA suit was worn by Ivan Petrovsky, a late 21st century Terran astronaut, during the famous Commonwealth mission. Petrovsky used this suit to dock with the damaged spacecraft SS Commonwealth and saved the vessel from certain destruction in orbit around Mars.
Petrovsky. Isn't that a Russian name?
I don't think so, Mr. Chekhov.
I sincerely doubt it, laddie.
Really? I would have sworn it was Russian.
This place is a marvel, Captain. I could spend weeks in here.
I'm sure you could, Scotty.
Do you think we should start back, Captain?
Enjoy yourself, laddie. The curator will call us when he's ready.
This display is all glistening angles of crystal, written on the plaque, an early example of the crystalline computers developed by the Lantoids of Tuner 9. Supposedly impossible to access by non-lantoid life forms, the computer works on a combination of harmonics and light transmission. The lantoids make physical contact with the computer to operate it. It is said that listening to a lantoid operate the computer is like listening to a complex musical score played on delicate chimes. The lantoids view programming as an art form. The schematics for a Dunkelberger automated worker Mark 12. The plaque reads, "The Dunkelberger automated worker Mark 12 was a successful entry in the early days of automated labor. The Mark 12 was designed to function as a cargo helper, allowing small manufacturers to cheaply compete against large corporations. Due to their small size, reliability, and obedience, these robots were often treated like pets and given names that were incorporated into their response systems. This particular version was called Barney." Written on the plaque, Federation Scientific Probe Model 331-19A. The 331-19A was powered by a small fusion reactor, since removed. The 331-19A had considerable range but was considered slow. The 331-19A carried a 3-ton instrument array. This has also been removed from the display model. This particular probe was used to monitor the collision of Algiers 5 and Algiers 6. One of the double stars at the core of the Algiers system had begun to collapse to a brown dwarf stage, and the resulting fluctuations resulted in the planet's orbital paths crossing, which led to their collision.
I've used one of these before, Captain. Everyone notices the fusion reactor, but I'll bet they forgot the fuel cell that served as backup power for the instrument package. It's probably as dry as a bone after all these years.
We're just guards, sir. We don't know anything.
A very old space probe rests on a pedestal in a roped-off area. It shows considerable wear. This case contains an astronomical model of the Lockean system. The plaque reads, "An ancient probe recently discovered near the Nova Attar system. Early studies indicate that the probe originated from the Lockean system. Interestingly, the technology involved in the probe's creation surpasses the current technology of the originating planet." This case contains a model of an ancient Lockean temple in honor of the guests. This guard is dressed exactly the same as the other guard.
I bet I could make that wee probe function given a little time, Captain.
I suspect the Soransi wants it just the way it is. But if the opportunity comes up, we can ask if they want you to repair it.
I'm sorry, this door is for museum personnel only. Have a nice day.
Captain Kirk and Hardy, please report to the curator's office, please. Captain Kirk and Hardy, please report to the curator's office.
I hope you enjoyed your tour, gentlemen. Please join me. Would you mind if the first toast with the Kazakhstanian was to the Enterprise?
Curator, why isn't that Brezhnev cognac?
For heaven's sakes, Chekhov, don't interrupt a man on the verge of toasting the best ship in the fleet with the finest cognac on this side of the galaxy.
My apologies.
Questions later, then. The toast. Here's to the Starship Enterprise. What could this be?
A conspiracy, if you ask me, Captain.
Let me pull this up on screen. They've destroyed my camera. Well, let's see how they deal with our other security systems.
I wish Bones were here. He's out, but I can't tell you how bad it is.
Not much of a trap, really. Fixed it up with a wee change of wiring. I've checked the system, Captain. Whoever sabotaged it did a fine job. All of the modules of the security system were cut off from each other when the curator tried to trigger the defenses. And I do not think I can repair from here.
I wish we had more information. We don't know who they are, what they want, or how long we have to stop them.
Captain, I found the floor plans for that room in here. The room used to house a small aquarium. Whoever's in there probably slid the phasers up a drain under an access panel. That's why the security system did not take notice.
At least it's too small for them to crawl out.
Aye, but it's close to a main drain, which is big enough. With the phasers they've got, I'd say they could tunnel out in about 2 hours.
Won't the Enterprise detect the phaser fire?
Not with that force field sitting above the museum.
And we can't shut that off since the security system modules aren't on speaking terms.
Aye, Captain. They've thought of everything.
We'll see, Mr. Scott.
I don't understand what you want me to do, Captain.
An old suit of armor, but with a strong framework added inside to avoid any accidents. It's holding a large metal lance in its right gauntlet. The large lance shows some wear. The decanter is nearly full. No effect. This is a very expensive silver tray.
I feel rather bad about this, Captain.
I do too, Scotty, but it's always surprising what you need in an emergency.
The note on the paper reads, Bresnia, VVSOP 2123.
Security lockdown in effect. Please enter release code. Security lock deactivated. Security lockdown is in effect. Please enter access code. Authorization code correct. Warning. Malfunction in security authorization. Access denied.
It appears that the terrorists do not want any visitors.
Captain, when you were in school, did you ever make a tennis ball cannon?
Of course, Mr. Scott. It's a dormitory tradition. Empty cans, tape, and a little propellant. If I remember my formula... But what's that got to do with our situation?
I was standing here looking at the cannon and thought maybe we could use the same idea to get through that wee door.
You're going to knock down the door with a tennis ball?
I'm sure Scotty had something else in mind. You did, didn't you, Mr. Scott?
Aye, Captain. In an engineering dorm, that's for freshmen only. As you move along, you get into bigger and better versions.
We'll use a big tennis ball?
No, laddie. I was thinking, since we cannot fix the phaser here, maybe we could build some sort of mass driver. The capacitors on the cannon can discharge a lot of power in a short burst.
Oh, I remember. Using magnetic fields to propel an object faster and faster.
Don't say it, laddie. You didn't invent them.
Of course not. I was going to say we will need an iron tennis ball. I don't think we have time to talk now, Captain.
The two capacitors in here would be perfect for handling the large power discharge we're going to need, Captain. So I've pulled the beasties out of the cannon.
The capacitor should charge very quickly. The capacitor should charge very quickly.
It'll take me about 2 hours just to finish this job, Captain.
Scotty, we don't have 2 hours.
You're asking for a miracle, Captain?
You've always delivered them in the past, Mr. Scott.
Well, it's not like anyone's likely to be using this monstrosity soon, so I pulled out the only things we might be able to use. It's not much, only some heat-resistant wiring and a cable.
Chekhov takes the capacitor off of the Aurora generator.
It's working fine. Just doesn't have anything to control right now.
Chekhov takes the capacitor off of the Aurora generator.
Security lockdown is in effect. Please enter access code. Security lock deactivated.
The surface of the old docking ring is pitted from micrometeorite strikes, and there are several large welds running completely around it. Many magnetic coupling clamps are uniformly spaced around the ring. The plaque reads, "This docking ring was recovered in pieces from the port facilities at Genevieve 9, where it was broken when a freighter, the Hardy, accidentally turned on its thrusters just before mooring was completed."
You know, Captain, this looks like the rings we worked on during my cadet summer training assignment.
Before or after the welds, Mr. Chekhov? There's a story in this, isn't there? Before or after? There's a story in this, isn't there?
Of course, Captain. Why else would I be talking? As I was saying, we worked with this type of rings. We were working in spacesuits outside the station, practicing maneuvering things around. When the instructors would take a break, we would line up several of the rings. After lining them up, we would float a piece of metal toward the first one. The trick was to turn on the magnets as the metal approached, so it would accelerate towards the hole. Then we turned off the magnets as it passed through. When this was done for each ring, the piece of metal would go very fast out the backside.
Rather hard on the box, wasn't it?
What box? We were in space. I'm talking about knocking down the door.
The lad's got a good idea, Captain. If we cannot go around that big door, we can go through it.
I thought that's what I said.
Well, gentlemen, why are we standing here talking?
The plaque reads, "A failed experiment in Habis robotics. The Green Mark 6 was one of those ideas where the original concept might have been sound, but the follow-ups were too much. Planned as a simple cargo handler, attempts were made at increasing its function and therefore its flexibility. Unfortunately, proposed missions such as security were well beyond its recognition systems and processors. One small piece of lasting notoriety was that the Mark 6 was one of the first Habis robotic uses of room temperature superconducting wiring. While the wiring concept went forward, little else of this robot did."
If we could make it run, maybe we could use it to force the door open.
Interesting idea, Mr. Chekhov. We'll have to keep it in mind.
Low and sleek, this space vehicle has a Spartan look, written on the plaque. This is the escape pod in which the famous smuggler known as the Black McKiernan was captured. Unable to outrun his pursuers, McKiernan tried to escape in the pod as he blew up his ship, hoping the authorities would think he had perished. The pod had been specially constructed of expensive metalloceramic alloys to withstand such an escape tactic. Unfortunately for McKiernan, the pursuit included a trailing scout ship looking for a backtracking maneuver, and when the smiling smuggler opened the hatch thinking he'd made planetfall, he was treated to the inside view of a Federation cruiser's shuttle bay.
That would make a fine battering ram. Too bad we cannot possibly get it up to speed.
This was a sensor diagram from the Remembrance, an early Terran interstellar craft.
You can generate a strong field with these, Captain. I've seen them control large ships for docking with these.
Everything on this pod's too tight. I need the proper tools. I was able to get one loose access panel, but I'm not sure what we can do with it.
That has to be one of the most useless robots I've ever seen.
Badly designed, Captain.
It's not going to help us, is it?
Only in a dance contest, Mr. Chekhov. This is not exactly my area of expertise.
You take the capacitor out of the robot.
There's no way anyone could fix this piece of junk, no matter how much time was available. But I did get some wires that may be helpful.
The capacitor should charge very quickly.
We'll still have to wire them up, Captain. That's going to be the real job. Captain, I'll need a little help positioning the clamps correctly while wiring them. Captain, push harder. I'll need these tighter to get more power.
I'm giving it all I got, Scotty.
We are hooked up here, Captain.
One projectile ready to go, Captain.
There's not enough power yet. We'll need another capacitor. Thank you, Captain. This should be fun.
Chekhov takes the capacitor off of the Aurora generator. Chekhov takes the capacitor off of the Aurora generator.
Ah, just like my old school days.
Must have been quite interesting to matriculate with you, Mr. Scott. Shall we go see if there's anything else to blow up?
Remind me never to play tennis with you, Mr. Scott.
The engineering panel. Look what we've done.
The spacesuit.
We made a bit of a mess here, didn't we? We had no choice. Remember, who's really at fault here?
That we will, Captain.
Although badly scuffed, when it was blasted free of the sealing, the gas canister and nozzle look functional.
The curator mentioned these were in each room.
We could open the door and spray it on the terrorists.
If it's fast enough to stop them from using their phasers, it'll stop us too.
And they'd get a warning if the door started to open. Time enough to put the hostages in jeopardy.
No effect. The gas canister is a bit beat up from the fall, but still functional.
I know, Captain. Look around, get to work. We have no time to talk. I didn't have anything in particular to say anyway.
But you said it quite succinctly, Ensign.
It'll take me at least another hour, Captain.
Scotty?
Sorry, Captain. I thought you said something to me. I don't think McCoy would like this transporter, Captain. Even I would not want to use this one.
You? Not use a piece of equipment? Why not, Mr. Scott?
This little beastie put out a wee bit of energy discharge during transport. You've heard of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Of course, Mr. Scott.
Well, this is the Mulligan certainty field, guaranteed to do bad things to you even Dr. McCoy cannot fix. You can block the radiation, but she's not something I'd want to play with unless I absolutely had to. You'd have to repair the wires anyway. And the power unit's been pulled out too. You think Uhura would like it if we swapped this one for hers?
Scotty, I never took you for having a death wish.
Actually, Captain, this one's not in bad shape. They took the transmitting gear and she's got no power. But other than that, she's in fine condition. They run a ship-shaped museum here.
Security lockdown is in effect. Please enter access code.
The access panel is stuck, Captain. I don't think any of us are strong enough to pull it free. There's only a wee bit of juice in this capacitor, but I think it'll be enough to power up the robot. It's a tight squeeze, Captain. I don't think we'll be able to get it back out once it's in. Should I go ahead and do it?
We could use the help, Mr. Scott. Energize the robot. Not yet, Mr. Scott. We may need that power else. We could use the help. I should get Mr. Scott to look at this.
The access panel is stuck, Captain. I don't think any of us are strong enough to pull it free.
I should get Mr. Scott to look at this. No, I don't think that's necessary. I should get Mr. Scott to look at this.
Barney, open the pod bay door. I knew it. They forgot to take out the fuel cell. That fusion reactor always scares people enough that they forget the backup cell. It's dry now. You'd need to wet this beauty down and get a catalyst in her. I hate to see a sweet liquid used for something other than tasting, but at least it'll work a fair bit in here. Better than brandies? More than Stums? Look out, fuel cell, here she comes. It's a good thing to build in so much flexibility. The silver isn't a bad catalyst and will act as a contact too.
All hooked up and charging, Captain.
I don't know how this works, but looking at it reminds me of the time when I was a boy working on my first electronics project. I built one of those old crystal radios. Maybe this computer somehow projects its answers into your mind.
It may be just looking at the crystals made you remember that, Captain.
It's possible. Are you now practicing psychology, Mr. Scott?
Oh no, Captain. I'm just a simple country engineer.
It probably wouldn't hurt anything to take one crystal. It's just a display after all. This one looks good.
Captain, we should unhook the capacitor before we go and take the tray. Captain, we should unhook the capacitor before we go and take the tray. All ready to go, Captain.
You remove the silver tray.
I rigged up an isolated piece of frame in there as one conducting plate and the tray as the other. It's not the best solution, but it's the best I can do here.
It's been a while, but I think that will work.
All hooked in, Captain.
Save new game. Replace.
Well, let's see how well this works. Kirk to Enterprise. Kirk to Enterprise. Enterprise, come in.
Who is this?
This is Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise. Who are you? Whoever you are, call for help. There are terrorists in the museum. This is Captain Kirk of the Starship Enterprise. I'm in the Smithsonian Museum, where hostages are being held.
How interesting. I'm in the Smithsonian Museum holding hostages.
Who am I talking to? You should give up immediately. You have no chance. I'm holding a Corbomite device. Why don't you and I discuss this? Who am I talking to?
My name is Lucas. I'm a member of the Lockean family, Onakan.
I've never heard of the Onakan family.
It's no surprise you haven't heard of us, even though we're one of the largest and oldest families on Lockean. Just shows how much the Federation believes the lies the Soransi pass along.
The Soransi are your enemies? I find it unlikely the Federation will take sides. Of course the Federation backs the Soransi. You don't see them taking hostages and setting traps for museum curators, do you? The Soransi are your enemies? I find it unlikely the Federation will...
If the Federation isn't backing the Soransi, how do you explain a ceremony giving the Soransi the Quelke? Obviously, the Federation believes their lies.
The Kelki? You mean the probe?
It is more than just a probe to us. The Quelke discovered Lockean generations ago. The entire race owes its existence to the Quelke.
I knew it had great significance. I just didn't know there was anyone else involved. This is when the original planet was on the verge of being destroyed? I thought the Soransi ruled your race. Shouldn't they be the ones that controlled the Kelki? I knew it had great significance. This is when the original planet...
We have as much claim to that probe as anyone.
It sounds like you have a legitimate grievance. Does the Soransi also have a right to the Kelki? Then why is the museum handing the Kelki over to the Soransi? It sounds like you have a... Then why is the museum...
It's because you're a pack of idiots. You have no idea what's going on. No idea who should have the Quelke.
Does the Soransi also have a right to the Kelki? Idiots, huh? Would an idiot do this? Does the Soransi also have a right to the Kelki?
Of course they do, but no more than we have.
Then this situation should be looked into more closely by the Federation. We're here with the best intentions. You want peace? We want peace. Then release the hostages now, and we'll talk about a solution. Then this situation should... Then release the hostages...
We deal from power.
If you agreed to release the hostages now, the Federation would not only keep the Kelki out of the Soransi's hands for now, but send in mediators to help find a peaceful solution for all. And so do we. Power is something we have far more of than you. You would be wise to give up now and end this foolishness. If you agreed to release the hostages now...
Is that an offer?
That's a guarantee. Obviously, I'll have to check with my superiors on this, but I'm certain something can be worked out. That's a guarantee.
Then we have a deal. We will turn off the security override and give ourselves up. And trust the word of Captain Kirk.
Mr. Chekhov, have Dr. McCoy beam down to make sure the curator and guards are all right. Mr. Scott, lower the museum's shields and have a security team beamed aboard. Captain's log supplement. The terrorists had already turned off the security override. After putting the 3 Onakans in custody, it was decided that the probe would not be returned to the Soransi. Federation mediators will visit Lockean to assist in the negotiations on the fate of this artifact. The fact that they gave up voluntarily when they could have possibly escaped and injured no one certainly made points for the Onakan's claim. Curator Brezhnev was treated by Dr. McCoy and is in good health. Commendations are in order for Scott and Chekhov for meritorious service. Lieutenant Uhura, send a message to Admiral Richards. Tell him he owes me more than he thinks he does.
Aye, sir. I have a feeling he's not going to be surprised.
I'm afraid I'm going to remember this mission with a great deal of sadness, Captain.
Why is that, Mr. Scott?
It was such a fine cognac, Captain. It was just waiting for us, and now it's gone forever. Such a waste. You always remember the one that got away.
Sure, Scott.
Captain, message incoming from Starfleet.
I see they got our report. On screen.
I reviewed your report from your recent assignment, Captain, and have a few comments. The top brass at Starfleet are impressed with the results of your recent performance. Outstanding work, Jim. Keep up the good work. Kane out.